Alright, making another video. They just keep on coming. It's not much notes, right? It's only a little piece of this piece of paper has the notes on it. So anyway, it's Nick ContraPoints. Used to be Nicotine, but now he's boring. Cut his hair and such. Became a regular citizen. Yeah, I'm sure he's not a regular citizen. But anyway, I haven't watched one of his videos in like a year. You know, so whatever. He's always a little bit too book quotey, whatever, blah 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 for my taste. You know, not making the argument from the person who made the argument kind of argument, which is, you know, whatever. But that's just a critique. So I'm going to do a critique. That's what I do best, right? Or that's what I do, period. So anyway, at 6 minutes, it's this general subject. So Professor Anton, that's how I got to this video. And they just keep babbling on about the medium and the this and the that, and it just doesn't seem to me that they ever get to anything, meaning anything. I mean, they're talking, you know, Professor Anton again, talking about stuff that you just say, who the fuck could care? I mean, you know, they tell people not to read books after throat surgery because their vocal cords attempt to talk. Well, yeah, that's right. We watch TV and we attempt to throw a brick. So what the hell you're going to make something spiritual out of that? The fact that we have dopey reflexes and do dopey things. Oh, big fucking goddamn woo. Why is that a philosophically relevant, meaningful point? Oh, that's right, it's not. It's crap. It's just trite little symbolisms to take people's eyes off the ball. Find a way to get people's eyes off the ball. Talk about inane, silly armpit hair or something, you know, just so they won't pay attention to the giant penis in the room or whatever the fuck you're doing. But anyway, yeah, I did say I have to say penis at least every other video. Anyway, so to Nick, I'll get to the Nick part here. Anyway, so they're talking about media and this internet thing and whether this is good or bad. And blah, 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 blah. And I just think, I don't know, I got to say something on it. I don't know what I'm going to say, but my brain is saying, this isn't right. They're just talking shit. They're just pulling crap out of their ass. So I'll play a little bit of this video and I'll critique it. And such.
And so I think, to a great extent, the oral tradition was preserving human memory, and human memory decays with the introduction of writing when it no longer becomes necessary. And I think probably something was lost. I think Plato's probably right to a certain extent. And to a certain extent, I think we're probably losing something with the transition from a book culture to a media culture. I think...
Okay, so now he's making this argument, and then he's making this argument that, you know, writing destroyed the oral tradition, and I think the oral tradition was crap. It was a tremendous waste of neurons. I mean, I just think this is you're kind of a brain scientist kind of guy. I think this is kind of silly to think that this doesn't occupy resources, that it isn't incredibly demanding on your neurological resources to have verbatim memorized text stuck in your head. Yeah, I just, you know, as a stroke victim, I know what it's like to try to rewrite crap in there and find empty space, and empty space isn't all that plentiful. So I would argue that it's a waste of brain resources to just have volumes in your, you know, have books in your brain, dusty, old books in your brain. It's better to have that space available to be part of the filtering engine, part of the thing that's doing the critiquing and the paraphrasing, the reductioning. You know, make it as small and concise as possible so you can bounce it around with other stuff and really understand what it means. So you're not gonna have any context if all you got is 3 books stuck in your friggin' head. There's no context going to be built out of that. Myopic, small-minded, small world, after all, kind of perception. It's not good for the brain. So I think books were a huge advantage. And then let's not even talk about what the oral tradition does to reality, because nobody oral traditions accurately. And so you end up with these distortions and perversions and mismemories. And what does that do to the truth of what somebody said? I mean, how many, you know, how much of the Bible is an accurate description of even what actually took place or what people actually said or what actually was first written? Yeah, it's a perversion, a distortion, a bastardization of the reality. and not one that's a refinement, but one that's a perversion, and it becomes just propaganda after a while. It lost all of its original meaning. If I was going to be a great philosopher, I'd be much happier to have what I said written down on hard paper out of my hand than to have somebody else's description of what I said, because we know just in that process it's going to get broken. Even one person's translation is going to be a perversion. So yeah, I mean, the oral tradition ain't all it's cracked up to be. And then going from a book tradition to this internet thing, again, to me, it's all upside potential, not downside liability. Now we have at our fingertips all these resources. We can go back to the original text. We can pull the quote. We can quote mine to our heart's content easily and efficiently. But I'd almost argue that it's completely unnecessary, because now we can watch things battle it out. We can watch ideas bounce off of each other right before our eyes. We can sit there and see it in this environment, and we can get context instantly. Instantly, we can create all kinds of context. It's right here in front. We can just right away. We can put things into categories. We can look at them deep. We can look at them. We can focus in if we really want to, and we can pull back at any minute. And it's all win. This is all win, except for the fact that the two things that you talked about in a way as if not even serious problems. Well, I'll jump to that. So I don't know if you're going to just say it directly, but I'll say it more directly. That's sort of how I work. Yeah.
There's a democratization of information. And one of the things that Professor Anton was lamenting is this sort of trolling problem. That is, the way people tend to interact on the internet. It was this very belligerent, self-centered, brawling kind of attitude. And I think what might be going on here is simply a transition from a aristocratic or upper middle class elitist literati to a democratized public. The masses are now arguing about science on YouTube. In the working classes, at least in the United States and Britain, I won't speak for elsewhere, there's this sort of brawling culture, right? The men...
All right, so it's just that kind of tone to it. But again, I don't even think this is the reality. The reality is the ivory tower. There's now finally somebody that can almost reach it. Okay, we're almost at the door of it. We can knock on its door. We still can't get these guys to show their faces too often. I give some credit to Professor Anton. I mean, he sort of puts his nuts on the line a little bit there, and accept his share of critique and exposure as maybe a fraud, or a snake oil salesman, or a psychobabbler, or a phantasmagorical silly person. I mean, these are all generic spears. I certainly feel like throwing at him often. And so he has, in a sense, put his credibility on the line, had the guts to do that, so I applaud that. But at the same time, I think these guys just give example to just how ivory these towers are. This is just made out of, this is a bullshit from tradition. These guys don't have the credentials, I guess is my argument. Okay, they've read the books, but how does that make you, how does that qualify you? I mean, it's almost like saying, well, if a teacher knows how to use a paddle on the little butt of a child, that somehow it knows how to teach. I mean, that's really not the credential. And it just seems like these elitists and these scientists seem afraid of the public conversation as much as a politician is afraid. It's like they got to filter the commentary. They got to filter the questions they're going to be asked. And they have to be able to control the circumstance. They're afraid. And then you have the other extreme where anybody who dares go on the internet has to just allow a bunch of fucking drunks and hecklers to be distracting everybody, right? They just get, you're in the middle of your dissertation, in the middle of your reading, your poetry even, your art, and you got to put up with some fuckwit who's throwing tomatoes at the canvas and who's, making a scene in the floor. And now you're supposed to somehow artfully contrive and artfully create a mood and an atmosphere, and you got some babbling idiot in the fucking crowd making a fucking scene. So those are two separate issues, I'd say, and combining them I don't think is appropriate. There's a legitimate complaint against these pull out of your ass. They're not even armchair philosophers. They're completely unqualified philosophers. They've never read a goddamn thing. They don't know a goddamn thing. They just pull crap out of their ass and throw it. Little jargons, red baiting. You see that a lot. They'll just throw out some kind of word, commie, and now you have to explain why you're not a communist, or why you thought some of what Marx said was incredibly insightful, and why blah, 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 and why you're not a Stalinist, and why you're not you didn't suck Castro's dick. I mean, it's inane to have to put up with that crap conversation that these assholes bring to the table. These fuckwits who they shouldn't even be called human because they probably can't outperform a fucking gorilla, in any competition. Illiterate, ill-minded, ill-sobered fuck asses. All right, let's just call that crowd what they are. They're not middle class. They're not barroom fellas. They're assholes. There's assholes on the internet. They're given free right to just show up and be an asshole. And so that's a different category of event than what's happening, in the sense that there's an obligation to put your goods up on the internet. All right, you're putting something on the table, and it's right there to be critiqued. It's right there to be fucking trounced and shown to be fallacy and nonsense and silly and ridiculable and critiquable. You're going to have to deal with the commentary. You're going to have to prove your case. This is like if you, a better analogy might be, you were sort of interested in the law, a courtroom. So it's a new kind of courtroom now, okay, where you don't have a judge censoring the evidence, and you can hear about the past behavior of this person. You can hear this and you can hear that, and the real story is going to be told. And there's all kinds of people listening. There's all kinds of, and their interpretation is going to be, well, he said a bad word. I can't hear that, and they'll cover their ears, and that's just reality. So there's going to be people who are going to be incapable of sifting through, the amount of information there is, or the amount of, and the fact that it is a little dirty. You have to be able to glean what's the signal from the noise. But yeah, I mean, again, it's all good. Getting this stuff out of this disgusting inbred monarchy, this stifled traditional. This is what the truth is. They have it written in a book. Here's the truth. No, it's so much more challengeable now, and alternative descriptions, alternative theories now have to be, to some extent, dealt with, at least in the arena. It's just getting these elites into the arena that's the tricky part. Getting the Dawkins and the rest of those guys to put up or shut up in some kind of more, more challenged way. Because they all do seem like pussies. Because they know they might lose some credibility points if they have to deal in this environment. Because this environment's going to produce every kind of argument, from a tomato to, an alternative truth that might well be more substantial than the truth they're trying to sell. A better theory. Let's see if there's anything else. Let's see. I can't even read this shit. I have to read it. On books. I mean, a book that you have to read more than once, that you have to get in depth with, that you have to spend years trying to figure out what the guy is saying, I would say that's a piece of shit. I'd say that's a book not worth reading, because you're just reading between the lines all over the place. You're just going to start making shit up. I mean, I didn't have to read Moby Dick more than once to get a big pile of shit out of it. I mean, I got the story, I got the nuance, I got lots of elements in there, and yes, sometimes it's good to watch a movie 2 or 3 times, and you see things you didn't see the first time, but you usually don't miss the white whale. I mean, you usually get the theme of the thing in the first reading, and if you're not getting the substance of the story in the first reading, in the first moments of reading, then the story is a story probably not worth telling. It's probably just a big pile of shit. And the reason why it needs 1,000,000 words, it needs a whole big, bizarre, convoluted way of getting to the point, is because the point is so ludicrous they have to basically confuse the fuck out of you to get you to the ludicrous end. And that's my opinion of most fucking philosophy that's written in books. You know, that's more than 5 years old, is that it's a big pile of shit. It's 7,000 words to say 7 sentences. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot of appreciation for it. Anyway, the truth is dirt simple. I'll say it again. This is the fundamental problem. The truth is dirt fucking simple. And the only thing that's complicated is extracting all the bullshit that is crammed into the human brain from the moment it's born. The lies, the lies, the lies. Buckets and buckets and buckets of crap are poured into their brain, cured into cement, and now it's the rest of your life journey is basically just chipping away at that fucking cement-hard bullshit that was poured into your head, to be able to just see the simple reality that can be explained by a 7-year-old. It's so fucking simple. And that's the tragic truth of all this bullshit, is the truth does not require 10 million books. It doesn't require 5 zillion conversations. It doesn't require 70 million hours of instruction. You don't need to be completely literate in physics and chemistry and biology. You don't need to be completely literate in every philosophical concept ever bounced around in a human being's head. It's just not that fucking complicated. And that's the only liability of the internet, is it keeps some of that old shit still alive, and people are still able to use the argument from historic philosopher. Yeah, I have the argument from historic philosopher. Einstein said boogers are stinky. Well, who the fuck cares? That's not an argument. What Einstein said, I think, I love Einstein. I love that he says shit. But guess what? It doesn't mean any goddamn thing. It's not a fucking argument. Because somebody said it, it's true? Oh, well, gee, that's a brilliant point. I'm just so sick of these fuckers and their fucking authors and their name-dropping bullshit. Make the argument. If the argument is so complicated you can't remake it in a fucking video, then I think it's an argument not worth being heard, frankly. So anyway, that's my critique. Done in my brutish, lower middle class, trailer trashy, brawly way. Yeah. Like that shouldn't matter. That's just kind of the biggest joke of them all, is the sensibilities of these elitist intellectuals. They're supposed to be above it all. They're supposed to have this understanding of Freud, an understanding of psychology, an understanding of all this shit. And they're the most, pea mattress feeling wimpy bastards on earth. They're the most egomaniacal, stuck up, hanged up assholes around. It's like when you go meet a prestigious psychiatrist, and they're the more little badges they have, the wackier these fuckers are. That's why they're psychiatrists, is because they know wacky because they're fucking wacky. Yeah. So maybe it's one of these things again, doers do, and those who can't teach. Yeah, something like that. So anyway, so it's nice seeing you, Nick, and such. See, you haven't evolved much. Yeah, not too much evolution. Yeah. Yeah, you don't have no, you didn't grow fangs or anything. So anyway, blah blah blah. And still in school, huh? Yeah. Well, yeah. Get away with it while you can. Yeah, so you can become one of them. You can become one of those hideous teaching monstrosities. Babble your babble. Anyway, that would be disappointing, but I guess that's where you're headed. Just, yuck. Yuck. Anyway, yeah, enough said. Video, response. I know, I'm dragging it out. I'm at 19 minutes. I might as well just drag it out for a round number 20. Yeah, I guess, but that's it. You should make more videos. I don't know. I should check your channel and see if you do make more videos. But, yeah, I'm probably not going to like these. Male sluttiness and evolutionary psychology. Yeah, that's good. Male-female circumcision. Well, that would be interesting, but, yeah, they're very different things. Anyway, well, I hate the word nature. I don't like it much either. But probably for different reasons. So until the next time and such.